Hey, everybody. For those of you that use Time to Pet, I just wanted to jump in here and clear up some of the confusion that we've seen regarding uh, a new feature that Time to Pet rolled out, which is the ability for clients to self select whether or not they would like to include a tip on all subsequent invoices. So we call that auto tipping. Um, so what happened? TTP introduced the feature and then enabled automatic tipping through their app. Now, ideally, this is something that the client was to consciously, opt into. But there was a glitch, and under very limited circumstances, the automatic tip button may have been pre-checked without the client's deliberate choice. So when a client goes to pay an invoice on their app, if you have tipping enabled, they will be presented with a choice as to whether or not they would like to include a tip on all payments going forward. And they can select the percentage. I think it's like 5 or 10, 15, and 20%, or they can do a custom tip. So that automatic tip may have gotten pre-checked without the client's choice. So what that means is that the client might have ended up leaving a tip on future invoices without realizing that's what they've done. And so I've reached out to Time to Pet because I wanted to know, you know, I wanted to know how pervasive this issue was. And from the emails that I've received from Time to Pet, I've been with Time to Pet for 9 years, 9 or 10 years now, long time. And I've always felt like they have been really transparent when there was an issue. Now, sometimes, it may take a little while for them to roll out communication, but ultimately they always do. But the customer experience team has been transparent through this process, and they identified the issue. They sent out an initial alert to all the businesses that were affected. Now, if you didn't get an email, you don't have to worry about it. You were not affected. For me, I got a few names of clients on my email, and I checked them to see whether or not the tipping settings were as the client anticipated. So, Time to Pet has identified the issue. I think they fixed it. What they did is they ran a report to see who would be affected, and after that initial email, so you went back, you checked those invoices, everything looked okay. You can rest assured that your business probably doesn't have any future issues. Now, they did mention that they've done a subsequent report, and across all the 4,000 companies that they deal with, only 58 of those businesses showed signs that there may have been some additional tipping unintentionally set. Now, keep in mind, some of these 58 businesses, when the report was pulled, now, this is a subsequent report after you got the initial email. Some of these 58 may actually be false positives. So, maybe the client really did intentionally put the auto tip on after updating their app. But TTP erred on the side of caution, and they continue to notify the businesses that are affected. Now, how did TTP figure out who was affected? Now, I was really curious about this because we can't pull a report of clients who have auto tipping enabled. So initially, and let's see if I can explain this correctly. Initially, they just looked at everybody that had enabled automatic tipping within the bugged version of the app. So they can see who is using the older app. Okay. Now, this only affected people who used the older app and they didn't update their app. Okay. So that eliminates a large chunk of clients right there. But they saw who had the tipping enabled in the bugged app. And now they have refined their criteria, and they're specifically looking at clients who actually submitted a payment on the bugged app version and clients who have also enabled auto tipping in the bugged version. Now, they cross-referenced this data to narrow it down to a really small set of potentially affected clients. So, right now, there is not a built-in app where we can just pull a list of all the clients who has auto tipping enabled. Now, Time to Pet has assured me that this is a very popular request, and they are talking to their product manager to try to get this on the roadmap. So fingers crossed, we're going to see that in the future. But until then, you can manually check invoices and client profiles if you have a specific concern. Now, the question was raised, well, what about ensuring that everybody is using an up-to-date version of the app? Well, on an Android phone, updates are really pretty seamless, and almost always they are automatic. iOS is iPhones is a little trickier because Apple doesn't give TTP a way to force the updates. Most clients do have automatic updates turned on, but there are a subset that don't. Now, TTP is planning to try to build a fail-safe mechanism into the app so that if there's a serious bug like this that happens again, they'll require users to update before using the app further. So I think that's a really good step to prevent future confusion. Now, there's also been some talk about clients being charged without them knowing it. And from Time to Pet's perspective, most clients actually intended to tip at least once. Now, I know there are people out there that say that's not true, but I'm just letting you know what TTP's perspective here is. And so they did intend to tip at least once, but maybe when they paid a particular invoice and that action unintentionally got triggered for the auto tips, maybe they got charged without knowing it. There aren't now Time to Pet says that they haven't seen any verified cases of clients who never intended to tip at all but got charged anyway. I know in the groups I've seen people say that this has occurred, but Time to Pet has not seen any evidence, at least I think they did not been able to replicate the issue. So I think if it has happened, it's just rare. And I don't think it's a very pervasive issue. Now, they do acknowledge that there was a lot of confusion that happened, and because clients didn't realize that a one-time tip could potentially turn into an ongoing setting, and that's why they are encouraging everyone to just double check any suspicious invoices and refund or adjust if necessary. But if if you've been affected, again, you received the email. So Time to Pet is taking the steps to prevent this from occurring again. And, they're constantly improving their internal testing. They are working on emergency update features for iOS and considering phased rollouts or beta testing of new features before full releases going forward. And so this should help ensure a smoother experience going forward. Why am I sharing this? Look, I know a lot of you are worried and frustrated, and you've seen chatter in a lot of the other groups about people wanting to switch platforms. And look, I get it. Every platform has its issues, but I think trust and transparency are key. That's a huge factor for me, at least, when running a business. And there's no denying that I am a longtime supporter of Time to Pet, and I just want to do my part and help assure you that from my perspective and the communications that I have had, they are listening and they're making changes and they're doing their best to fix this. So I've been in contact with them, and the fact that they're even sharing these details with me and working on improvements is a great sign. I told them I was going to make this video, and I wanted them to. I asked them to give me to share more information than was shared in the initial emails to you. And I also wanted to know, I think it was Carla that posted a video in the group. She wanted to know how Time to Pet actually came up with the list of clients. So look, bottom line is, if you think a client's been affected, verify that the auto tip settings in the profile are accurate, adjust it as needed. I don't think you need to roll out a communication to every client, just ones that may have tipped within that time window. It may be a good idea to check. You can certainly remove a tip if you notice one that has been added by accident. Keep encouraging your clients to update the apps. The newer version, though, of the app fixes the issue. Okay, this is just the older versions of the app. And I want you to know Time to Pet is actively working on giving us more tools and safeguards to handle things like this in the future. If you have any questions or comments, just drop them below. I'll do my best to answer, and I'll stay in touch with Time to Pet. But, everybody's been communicating with Time to Pet and then sharing their experience in the groups. And I kind of wanted to just kind of collate all that information that I'm seeing, all the chatter, and try to explain. I won't say a single source of truth. That's what I'd love it to be, but I just want everybody to know from my perspective that it's not a huge deal. It's not the end of the world. I mean, it's never great when a client has to go through something like this, right? Or we have to take our time to fix errors. There is one other issue that everybody should be aware of. Now, this is behavior that's been going on since I've been using Time to Pet. So you'll want to build this into your SOPs to check this. Time to Pet is aware of the issue, but here's what happens. Say you have a client that has, and this is totally unrelated, okay, to the auto tip issue, but if a client has an invoice, let's just say it's $1,000, okay, 10 visits, $100 a piece, $1,000, and they add a tip to the invoice, and let's just say it's 20%. Well, when they pay their bill, it's going to be $1,200. That's $1,000 plus the 20% tip, right? If subsequent to them making a payment on the account, and this occurs no matter how small the payment is. So if you're somebody that collects deposits, in advance, or you have a client prepay for their services and the client prepays their tip as well. If there is a subsequent cancellation on that invoice, okay, so let's just say one of those visits get canceled. The tip that the client has already paid is not adjusted. Okay. So you have to be aware of that. So so if you cancel one of those visits, now they have an invoice of $900, but they still have paid a $200 tip, which is 20% of the original $1,000. So anytime you have a cancellation, it would behoove you to go into your invoices and take a look at the tips and make adjustments to the tips. I've known Time to Pet to have this little issue for ages, and I just kind of assumed everybody knew what was going on. So check that out. And put it in your SOPs. Just make sure you take care of that. So, have any questions, drop them below. I appreciate you listening. I just wanted to hop in here really quick and give you my perspective on the issue. For me, it's business as usual. I keep going, keep moving forward. I get there have been really big changes at Time to Pet lately. I don't think it does us any good to gang up on them because 4,000 of us are using Time to Pet in our businesses, and it's in our best interest to ensure that they succeed. And look, this is not, years ago before I switched to Time to Pet, I lost all my client data. One of the softwares I was using just went belly up overnight, just poof, gone. And I know there are people in this group today that have had issues with another software a couple years ago, and they just pretty much disappeared overnight too. This was a software that had been around for ages. And they were charging really cheap rates. So I always wondered how they could possibly be effectively running a business on how little that they charged clients. So from that perspective, I'm okay paying the higher rates with Time to Pet just because I know they're best in class and they have the infrastructure to really support all of us. While I'm at it, make sure your Dropbox downloads or backups are enabled if you use Time to Pet. If you haven't done that yet, just go to the knowledge base, look up backup or Dropbox, and then turn that on. And every night you will get a set of zip files put into your Dropbox automatically. And it will contain all your company data. So worst case scenario, everything just, goes south. You've got your client data. So am I worried about this? No, I don't think you should be. But, things happen. I think it's going to be okay. Hope y'all have a great week. Take care.